Welcome to the Best Little Town podcast, your go-to source for everything happening in the town of Bedford's local government. Whether it's new initiatives or important decisions shaping our town's future, you'll hear it right here. This podcast is dedicated to keeping our residents informed and engaged.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Best Little Town podcast presented by the town of Bedford. My name is Bart Warner. I have the privilege of serving the community as town manager. And this broadcast is designed to provide further addition and information about the business activities of the town of Bedford. Specifically, it's a recap of council meetings as they occur. And since I'm joining you on a Wednesday morning, that means we had a council meeting last night on Tuesdays. Just as a reminder, we meet on the first and third Tuesday of each month, unless there is a cancellation due to lack of an agenda, which happens sometimes. But those meetings, again, first and third Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. upstairs in the municipal building located at 215 East Main Street. Last night, we had a regular meeting on June 16th, and I'm going to jump right into the list of the agenda to guide this podcast. Although I hear the train coming, and I might give that just a second to get right past us here at the Grove Street studio. And we're going to assume that train is right on time wherever it's headed. First item of new business was approval of the minutes, and most of the time that passes without incident, but last night Vice Mayor Updike noted an error in the published minutes from the previous meeting, which took place back on June 2nd. He noted that on page 9 at the bottom, that the vote on the budget approval was actually a 5-2 split. That was included in the individual recap, but then it was erroneously listed as being unanimous. So that amendment was noted and the change was made. And with that amendment, the minutes from the June 2nd regular meeting were unanimously approved. Next is the report of town manager. Last night, I began by turning over the podium to Police Chief Jim Moore, who introduced 3 new officers who have joined the Bedford Police Department. They are Christian Dillard, Marcus Olson, and Stuart Overstreet. Chief Moore brought them all up and introduced them and noted that they have recently graduated from the academy and have been sworn in, and they are currently in their field training portion of their employment, and we are certainly glad to have them all aboard. And although I feel a little bit superstitious about saying this, with them coming on, the police department is now fully staffed based on the appropriated staffing levels approved by council. Also, getting back to my report, through the efforts of our finance staff, once again, the town has received the Certificate of Award for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association for its annual certified financial report for the fiscal year that ended in June 2025. The town has received this recognition from GFOA multiple times and noted last night it is a mark of distinction. It's not easy to obtain, and it's not easy to repeat as a recognized certificate winner. So hats off to Ann Cantrell and her colleagues in the finance department for the excellent work they do. Closed on a couple of administrative notes between last night and the next regularly scheduled town council meeting. Town offices will be closed in observance of a couple of holidays. The first is this week. That's Friday, June 19th. Town offices will be closed for the federal Juneteenth holiday. Also, on Friday, July 3rd, town offices will be closed in observance of Independence Day. There will be several events that weekend in conjunction with the semi-quincentennial of our great nation, including our own fireworks display, which will take place that night, July 3rd, beginning at dusk. The next item of new businesses was appearances before council. Pastor Jeremy Bro, who is a resident of Granite Drive, rose to share a bit of scripture from Psalm 37 and also to offer prayer for the community, the town council, and the proceedings last night. Next were council comments. Councilman Jay Ippolito began by welcoming everyone who was physically present and also extending his personal regards to the new police officers. He also thanked Reverend Bro for his prayer and asked that everyone keep the East Lake community in their thoughts and prayers based on the tragic occurrences that happened at East Lake Community Church last weekend in conjunction with the weather. Councilman Todd Foreman also welcomed everyone and noted that there were a lot of great events that took place in the first weekend of the month, particularly in conjunction with the commemorations of the D-Day invasion and the importance of that to our community. Councilman Stacey Haley followed up and noted that he had attended events at the D-Day Memorial both last Friday and last Saturday. He gave his compliments to the D-Day staff and volunteers for great presentations all around. Also expressed his thanks to the veterans of the D-Day era and also veterans in general. Noted that the annual events surrounding those commemorations are among the biggest we have each year within the town. He also noted that there has been a new banner commemorating the service of a World War I veteran, and that is up and installed in the downtown area, and that was initiated by Steve and Erica McFadden, and Councilman Haley extended his thanks to them for bringing that up and seeing it through. Stacey also thanked Woody Watts for his activities in promoting events and presenting things in the town. He also noted that Mayor Stanley spoke at the June 6th commemoration event that took place at 11 o'clock that Saturday morning and shared his view that CG was probably the first mayor to speak at a D-Day event since we were a city. Next was Vice Mayor Darrell Updike. He spoke about the banners downtown and passed along compliments in particular to Councilman Jay Ippolito. Mr. Ippolito was instrumental in getting the new scenic banners showing different views of the community that we were able to put up on poles and supplement the veterans and historic banners that are part of the policy that was recently adopted. Last night, Darrell thanked Jay for that effort and also appreciated the fact that we were able to spread out that display a little bit further within the footprint of the downtown area. Dwight Evans was next to speak. He thanked everyone for being physically present and also those who were watching by virtual means, either live on YouTube or in other fashions. He expressed his appreciation to the new officers for joining our staff and noted that he was unfortunately away from town the previous weekend and was sorry to miss attending a lot of the D-Day events in person. Next was Councilman Dave Foster, who likewise thanked everyone who was in attendance and passed along his personal compliments to the Finance Department for the recognition by GFOA, shared his opinion that shows their diligence and qualifications in making sure that we comply with several complicated rules and procedures. Councilman Foster also recognized Tom Woodard and the Public Works Department for their efforts, particularly as regards the banner displays and the flags that were displayed. The banners and flags that commemorate people and events through town may appear to come out of nowhere seamlessly, but there is a great deal of effort involved in getting those switched out, and Public Works actually did that 2 or 3 times within the last week based on different commemorative strategies and approaches. Finally, Mayor C.G. Stanley spoke. He thanked everyone for being present and for the activity in beautifying the town. He expressed his thanks to April Cheek Messier and the staff of the National D-Day Memorial for the events at the D-Day Memorial. This is the 25th anniversary commemoration of events up there at D-Day. The arch was dedicated back in 2001, and pretty much every year subsequently, the staff there and their volunteers have presented very thoughtful and moving events. CG noted that he attended events beginning on Friday, the 5th. There was a reception and a presentation of the visual multimedia presentation entitled When We Went In. He also noted his participation in the remembrance ceremony on the morning of June 6th. Noted that the focus throughout the weekend and everything presented by the Memorial Foundation is focused on the sacrifices made during D-Day, and we should never forget that freedom is not free. CG wrapped up his comments last night by noting his attendance at a Flag Day presentation by the Elks Lodge at Centertown Plaza on June 10th, and noting how much he personally appreciated that and his personal remembrances of those presentations by the Elks Lodge dating back to his own childhood and his years as a Boy Scout. Next item was a report of council committees. There were none. Then there were consideration of revisions to the agenda. The Bedford Police Department had submitted a request to close Gold Street that they asked to be included in the consent agenda. That revision to the agenda was approved. The next item of business, were public hearings, which there were none scheduled last night. We then moved into the consent agenda, and the request to close Gold Street was then heard as part of that portion of the meeting. The Bedford Police Department requested to close Gold Street on August 7th, 2026 from noon until 5 o'clock p.m. Closure is intended to facilitate a crash scene demonstration for children attending cop camp. That date marks the final day of cop camp, which is an important opportunity for children to witness the various services provided by emergency responders. Additionally, this arrangement facilitates convenient pickup for parents on that day. Attendees can expect to see police cars, fire equipment, and rescue vehicles fully on display. Last night, Town Council was requested to close Gold Street again on August 7th from noon until 5 p.m. for a crash scene demonstration for children attending cop camp, and that request was unanimously approved by all members of council. There was no old business, so we moved into the new business portion of the agenda, and the first thing listed there was a brief presentation regarding the operations and outcomes of the Information Technology Department by its director, Daryl Fouts. Daryl did an excellent job of both summarizing but sharing the complexity of the operations that he oversees and the strategies, processes, and resources behind those. A lot of positive response from council to Daryl's presentation. One thing they noted was Daryl has a position to support him that is currently vacant. So in being present last night, they noted that pretty much 100% of our staff was there. Daryl did graciously notice the fact that Charles Jones is currently serving as an intern and is providing great service, but we tip our hat to both Daryl and Charles for doing a lot with not much in terms of resources and really keeping things going. The next item of new business was a budget amendment for a heat grant award. The Bedford Police Department was awarded a heat program grant for an equipment reimbursement initiative. The grant covers the purchase of equipment and services for an amount not to exceed $10,000. Town staff has requested for council to consider acceptance of the heat grant and appropriation of the budget award. And a little bit of background, the focus for these services and this equipment identified by the police department is on preventing auto theft. Last night, Town Council was requested to approve an appropriate budget amendment, which would accept the grant award and appropriate funds to the revenue and expenditure line items as appropriate. That motion was made by Dwight Evans and seconded by Jay Ippolito. It was unanimously approved with all members voting aye. The next item of new business was adoption of an amendment to the fiscal year 2026 budget. At the end of each fiscal year, certain organization account codes in the general ledger of the governmental fund are expended beyond the current budget appropriation, while other organization account codes have budget appropriation that is available for use. In order to balance the budget with the actual expenditures, a budget transfer to organization codes that have or are forecasted to have non-favorable balances is requested. The auditors review budget to actual variances in Exhibit 7 of the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, and expenditures beyond budget appropriations by function can result in an audit comment. Staff forecasts expenditures as best as possible to stay in compliance with this requirement. And last night, Town Council was requested to approve a budget entry which would appropriate budget funding and transfer existing funding to organization codes requiring that additional funding. Basically, there was a total of $590,000 covered by 6 different revenue line items and 14 expenditure line items that were either overperforming or not spent. And that amount was transferred to 22 expenditure accounts that had ongoing projects or some unexpected expenses, such as the building and grounds maintenance cost related to our HVAC issues at the municipal building. On a motion by Councilman Todd Foreman and seconded by Vice Mayor Updike, the motion to approve the budget amendment was unanimously adopted by all council members present. The next item of new business was selection of a municipal building HVAC renovation option. Back on December 9th, Town Council voted to award a contract to Thompson & Litton for design, bid assistance, and construction administration services related to potential renovations of the municipal building located at 215 East Main Street. This includes replacement of HVAC and electric systems as well as other identified deficiencies. Since that time, Thompson & Litton has begun the work identified in the contract and have reached a point in which a decision needs to be made about the precise nature of air conditioning equipment to be replaced. That decision will directly affect development of all subsequent design and construction documents moving forward. Council received an email from Barry Collier of Thompson & Litton back on April 10th outlining 2 options for replacement of the building cooling system. One is an air-cooled system employing DX split units. The other is a water-chilled system similar to what has existed throughout the current life of the building. Some analysis was also contained in that email, including a 20-year cost projection. The proposed DX split system is estimated to cost $300,000 over that time frame, whereas the water-chilled system estimate is $376,000. Thompson & Litton recommends moving forward with the DX split system, and that recommendation is shared by both myself and the Public Works Director. We have also conferred with Senvar Roofing about the impact of installing a DX system on roof sealing work that was recently completed by that company. For those keeping track of the history of the municipal building and its issues, we had some leaks and had the roof resealed and replaced by Senvar a few years ago, and that carried with it a 15-year warranty. We wanted to make sure that any air conditioning work that we did would not negatively impact either that work or the warranty associated with it. So we reached out to Senvar for verification. And we did report last night that Randall Scott of Senvar noted that the warranty for the previous work shall remain intact as long as any repairs or installation of new flashings is performed by Senvar or any other installer certified by American Weather Star. Last night, Town Council was requested to formally direct Thompson & Litton to proceed with design and construction documents for the renovation of the municipal building based on utilization of a DX split cooling system. There was quite a bit of discussion about the relative costs and benefits of this proposal and the great need that's represented by the work that is proposed. Vice Mayor Updike shared his view that the breakdown of costs presented by Thompson & Litton makes the DX split cooling system option make much more sense. On a motion made by Councilman Haley and seconded by Councilman Foster, all members present voted unanimously, 7-0, to approve the direction to proceed with the DX split cooling system and for Thompson & Litton to proceed appropriately with design and bidding activity. Next item of new business was a resolution related to the Bedford Autobus and Federal Transit Administration 5311 program assistance. The town was awarded 4 demonstration grants from the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation, or DRPT, to operate the Bedford Autobus for fiscal years 2023 through 2026. The intent with the demonstration grant projects was to apply solely for state assistance over 4 years before considering becoming a federally funded transit provider after that. 4 years allowed DRPT time to add Bedford into their transit program that receives federal funds. Town Council authorized application in January 2026 for fiscal year 27 Federal Transit Administration 5311 operations funds. The FTA 5311 program has a three-way split of costs. Federal funds pay 50% of operating costs to DRPT. DRPT pays between 20 and 30% of the other 50% of the cost. The remaining 20 to 30% match needs to be provided, which is currently being done by the Bedford Community Health Foundation. The total estimated project operating cost that Council saw in January was $224,968 with a contingency. During the application process, the town was advised that they could include grant administration costs at the federal de minimis rate of 15%, which brought the total request to $258,714. This amount is included in the state 6-year improvement plan that must be adopted by the Commonwealth Transportation Board in order for the program to be fully funded. This meeting is expected to be held June 16, 2026, making funds available July 1st, 2026. DRPT is the grant recipient of the federal funds. The town would be a subrecipient. The town would directly receive upfront federal funding and then reimbursement from the state for the additional percentage. The remaining matching funds would need to be paid from another entity as noted. The Health Foundation has included budget funds for up to a 30% match, pending future procurement if required. Anticipating formal adoption of the 6-year plan, Council would need to accept the transit funds, enter into a new agreement with DRPT, and procure an operator and match provider if DRPT requires that be on the contract with the current operator. Last night, the Town Council was requested to accept the Bedford Autobus FTA 5311 funding as a subrecipient to the Virginia Department of Rail and Transportation, to authorize the town manager to execute the agreement with DRPT, and to extend agreements with service providers that are recognized by DRPT. If required, following execution of the agreement, the town would also procure a transit service provider and matching fund provider. Mary Zirkle provided summary of what I just read last night. Council members in general shared their overwhelmingly positive comments about this service. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Autobus, that is a transit service that functions here within the town of Bedford. It makes 17 stops throughout the territory of the town. And for additional information about how you can catch the bus or just get information in general, they do have a website, which is otterbus.com. That's OTTERBUS.com. On a motion by Todd Foreman, seconded by Stacy Haley, Council voted unanimously 7-0 to accept the federal funds and to authorize the appropriate administrative processes to move that forward. Final item of new business was a resolution accepting an AARP Community Challenge grant. As part of 3 previous plans developed that are related to downtown improvements, staff applied for the National American Association of Retired Persons, or AARP, Community Challenge Flagship Grant to implement a parklet in the downtown area. Parklets are public areas that use public parking spaces and are intended to provide green space and places for people to gather where space is limited. The area that was requested for the parklet was the 2 parking spaces on East Main Street that were closed by Town Council in front of the new Vietnam Veterans Memorial. The grant requested funds for the materials to construct the handicap-accessible parklet structure, including appropriate plantings and barriers and signage required by AARP. At the time of writing, the grant contemplated community involvement in the construction. The town received notice of the award on May 1st in the amount of $10,926. No matching funds are required. The town would assist with the project and administer the grant. The grant award time frame is June 24th, 2026 through December 31st, 2026. This has not been publicly announced by AARP, although that should occur on June 24th, allowing projects to officially begin at that time. An agreement with AARP is required to be executed prior to the grant award being sent as an upfront payment to the town. Last night, Town Council was requested to adopt a resolution to accept the grant award and authorize staff to execute all required documents. A budget amendment will be forthcoming to allocate the grant and assign it to the proper general ledger codes. Mayor Stanley provided a bit more background into this project and noted that the grant application was made by Mary Zirkle, our Director of Community Development, and at the time there was a robust engagement with the board of the Vietnam Memorial regarding the installation of the parklet, and CG indicated that there apparently had been a little bit of miscommunication between the town, perhaps, and the board about the duration in which the parklet would remain. The Vietnam Memorial Board prefers for it to be present on a permanent basis, and upon discussion by all members of council last night, they indicated that they agreed with that proposal. And in addition to making a motion to approve the administrative processes described previously, they also noted that this parklet is intended to be installed as a permanent structure and will not be moved. On a motion made by Councilman Todd Foreman and seconded by Councilman Stacey Haley, all members of council once again voted unanimously 7-0 in favor of the motion to accept the grant and construct the parklet in front of the courthouse, also adjacent to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. That concluded the items of new business on the agenda. There were a couple of closed sessions last night. One dealt with discussion or consideration of disposition of land, where discussion in open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the town regarding forest property outside of town limits in the Peaks Magisterial District of Bedford County. I can report that this discussion related to the town-owned property adjacent to the Stony Creek Reservoir. There were basically some procedural matters discussed with the town attorney about private interest in obtaining that property, but also the town's action in pursuing consultant services related to possible conservation easements. And basically that took place in closed session because there were a couple of details that are still subject to negotiation with both parties. And again, when town council and staff negotiate on behalf of the town citizens for the funds that you entrust to the town, we're always at a little bit of a disadvantage because we have to be as open and public as possible, but again, trying to get the best deal in negotiation. So typically, if we establish a budget or come out with some specific figure, that's the cost we all pay. What we're trying to do is leverage the best possible deal for either conservation of the property or a long-term responsible use, and that was what was discussed in the first closed session. Second closed session was to discuss personnel matters, and I can report that was the annual review of the town attorney. Again, personnel matters are not typically subject to public discussions for very similar reasons related to other negotiations and transactions of the town. Those closed sessions both concluded, and town council came out and adopted the appropriate certification, and the meeting was then adjourned. If you have any additional questions or concerns about the events of last night or any other matter, we certainly would like to hear from you. You can call Bedford Town Hall during business hours at 540-587-6001, or you can email me directly, Bart Warner, at bwarner@bedfordva.gov. Any questions, suggestions, concerns, we certainly want to hear about those, and are always happy to receive and share any information that you require. And on that note, I thank you for tuning in and being attentive to this podcast once again. Again, this is really just intended to provide another opportunity to hear the actions taken at the town council meeting. Again, the business of the town is conducted almost exclusively at town council meetings. Beyond that, staff is empowered to carry out the directives of council that are made in these meetings or to enforce the codes that are adopted or changed in these meetings. So there's ever a question about the policies or activities of town, most of that goes back to either the meetings or the town code. And we're always happy to answer any questions about that. The next regular meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, July 7th. That will take place at 7 o'clock p.m. unless it is canceled due to a lack of new business, which at this time I can report is a possibility. The summer months, particularly this time of year, are a little bit slow in terms of administrative activity, although our fiscal year begins July 1st and town staff will be working to implement all of the measures included in the fiscal year 26-27 budget, which takes effect on July 1st. So in the meantime, I hope everyone enjoys a very pleasant beginning to the summer and that people enjoy good health and safety in general. There are a variety of activities coming up on the weekend of July 4th. Again, it's a special commemorative anniversary for our nation. It will mark 250 years since our Declaration of Independence, and hope that you enjoy opportunities for fellowship and fun with family and friends, and also that we not take for granted all the blessings that we have as citizens of this nation. Until next time, I personally wish you all the best and thank you for your interest, contributions, patience, and support of the world's best little town.